All right, so we are live, and Dan Petru has already come on and told us that he's frustrated with the fan base of the New York Islanders. We yesterday, after Kevin left us, decided that the new Islanders goal horn is absolutely bizarre. But we'll
What
get
I think this sounds good.
every time
No?
a goal is scored,
I get what they're doing. I think it's clever to try and mimic the sounds of the train that's going to be taking everybody to the games.
right?
I mean, and it's annoying. A goal horn should sound annoying.
That's true,
I don't think it's the end of the world
right?
whether they changed it or not. It's just that I'm just tired of hearing people in my fan base compare this move to when the Whalers left Hartford as a former Whalers. No, it's not. I'm not actually laughing about it either. It's like comparing the Whalers moving to North Carolina with the Islanders moving to Brooklyn is like saying, I know what it's like to have a broken foot when I only have a sprain.
I got you. Yeah.
It's just frustrating. You know what it is? You know what's going to cure all of this, and everybody I think will start to relax and just games being played.
When they move to Quebec?
Yeah, they just need games to be played, and I think that's going to calm everybody down. But I just feel like people are looking for excuses right now to be angry.
Maybe. Here's the thing, though. There's two things. The MTA, for as long as I lived in New York and on Long Island, was never liked. So to mimic anything they do was going to be a bad thing anyhow once people figured it out. Somebody should have realized that. They're not in good standing and haven't been in good standing in New York in like 35, 40 years. That's one thing.
But this isn't Nassau County and Suffolk County's team anymore. It's all of New York.
Right. But the other thing is, it does sort of sound like a Pinto horn, you know? And so I came up with this idea, and I don't know if that followed through. He probably did, where we could have a battle of the goal horns.
Oh yeah, no, I'm all set, ready to go.
And it's kind of wimpy compared to some of the others.
It reminds me more of my
I think if you put it with a better song, that would help too. Noel and I are actually working on seeing what it would sound like mixed in. We're going to work on this, hopefully have it next week. Seeing what it would sound like mixed in with No Sleep to Brooklyn.
Come on. My last point.
That might sound good.
It might.
My last point, and I apologize for my throat, but my voice, the kids have managed to give me strep throat, which is just a fun little thing in the middle of all of this. My point on the song thing, Dan, is you are literally in the hotbed of some of the best musicians on the planet.
I agree.
In Brooklyn. Brooklyn is where all the great musicians I know live. Like they don't live in Nashville, they don't live in New York, they don't live in LA, they live in Brooklyn. So there should be a song should not be an issue. Like there should be a cool song that could be gotten out of there.
I agree.
It may have too much Mellotron on it, but it'll still be a cool song.
Wait a second. Rick Wakeman lives in Brooklyn?
No. The good musicians, like the good ones.
Oh,
what?
Anyway, let's move on. But yeah, Russ, do you have the link to the goal horn?
yeah, I can get it. Give me one
Thanks.
second.
Just so we can bring it up a little bit.
It kind of sounds like the screaming in Dumb and Dumber. You want to hear the most obnoxious sound in the world, and then you boom.
And that's it.
But I think it's fine. If it annoys us, it's surely going to annoy our opposition.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
I guess so.
When that goes off, we scored a goal. There's nothing to bitch about.
Right.
I'm sorry.
But isn't it a little Pavlovian? Like if you don't want to hear a sound, you're not going to want to score a goal. I mean.
No, I don't think that. Here's on the grand scheme of things, they didn't change the name of the team. They didn't change the uniforms. I'm okay with a goal song.
Tell me that the most annoying song right now is not Chelsea Dagger.
Oh, it's annoying on purpose. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's about falling in love with an adult entertainer and being chased by her boyfriend. That's what the song's about.
Wait, whoa. Hold on, wait a second.
That song is Chelsea's Dagger. Chelsea is the name of
whose song is Chelsea's Dagger first
the
off?
Blackhawks.
Blackhawks song. Okay, I see. I didn't know this. Okay.
Her boyfriend's name is Dagger.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like having too much to drink and being inappropriate.
Okay, I just thought it was a song that they played at Oktoberfest. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah, the Chicago Blackhawks should probably change that song right about now. All right, so let's move on. And
That's a good point.
Not even taking that further, right? Okay, so let's move on and start the show. So we will go in order.
Dan, Ross.
Mike, Dan, Russ, Kevin. Here we go. The 30th of September. It's Wednesday. All right, here we go. Mike. I get applauded for knowing the date these days. It's good. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, September 30th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I'm Kevin Allen of USA Today.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is episode number 346 for those of you keeping track at home. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock to give you the comings and goings. And we are 1 week, folks, from being able to say that hockey starts tonight. So that's pretty exciting. And I'm going to a hockey game tonight. I'm going to see Russ at the game tonight.
Yep.
We're going to go see the Flyers take on the juggernaut that is the New Jersey Devils in a preseason game that'll definitely not set the ratings.
No. There's a good storyline in this game, though. There is.
Give it to me, Russ, because I would like that.
The storyline is Pavel Zacha. They're trying to decide whether he should make the team or not. There's a lot of discussion. Whether he should get his 9-game look or should he either just make it outright or send him down right away. Like, it's a lot of fodder that came from the coach today. There's also this thought that because his locker is not in the main locker room that's not good. Look, I don't look into things like that. I always thought he had
locker room. Where is he exactly, Russ? I mean, where?
He's out in the hallway.
You know, there's that main locker room, and then there's the second room.
Oh wow, this is the Devils. This is like the passive aggressive Devils locker room game we're talking about.
So, but here's the thing.
Give them 9 games. I mean, what do they have to lose? They're not going.
I don't understand that. Give them 9 games.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
I think they're going to give him the 9 games. I think for some reason they're trying to just make it seem like, well, we don't want to just give him 9 games and just to play him and then send him back. Like, you know, I guess they want to seem like they're trying to give this narrative like it's meaningful, and I get that. So I think he will get his 9 games. So.
Well, it sounds right now like of the top 6 picks in the draft, that 5 of them are going to make the starting rosters of their respective teams. Obviously, McDavid and Eichel, and I saw Eichel last night, and he was fantastic in a 4-0 victory over the Leafs. But Don Maloney said this morning that Dylan Strome is making progress towards starting the season with the Coyotes. Noah Hannafin has been playing very well for Carolina, and if Zacha plays 9 games, the only team that has sent their kid down to junior is the Maple Leafs and Mitch Marner, and the reason they did that is because they want him to mature, and they don't want to burn a year of his entry level.
Flyers and Provorov after that, number 6, right? But yeah, that's a lot. It is a lot, but I can't say it's not worthy. It's hard. Like, I did an article, and it's up online, about the top 20 guys that'll play in the league this year, right? And so Zacha was on my mind, but at the end of the day, I couldn't put him in there because it's like it's a shell game, and I had to hand in this article like 2 months ago.
Right.
So it is hard to sort of look into the crystal ball. Now that we're a little closer, he looks like he'll make it. If he has a bad game tonight, he probably won't, though. I mean, it really does hinge on that.
You really think so?
I don't think, but there's no downside to giving a guy 9 games. Like, none. Like,
I mean, according to them, I'll get you a quote here. I'll give you the downside to them.
I mean, while you're looking that up, Buffalo gave Sam Reinhart 9 games last year.
Right.
And he was clearly not ready. I mean, he did not have a great preseason, and they were going essentially for 29th or 30th place, but they gave Sam Reinhart 9 games because they wanted to give him a taste of what the NHL was like, and I think they benefited from that this year because he's physically prepared himself better, and he looks like he'll probably make the Sabres this year because he is better prepared.
And the Oilers gave Leon Draisaitl like 45 games before they sent him back to juniors.
Right, but that was stupidity.
It was, I know.
That was stupid.
If the Islanders weren't, if the rebuild was still going on with the Islanders, Matthew Barzal would make this team. He's been one of their best players in camp. He's been outstanding, and I'm blown away at his skating ability.
Dan, I was surprised that Del Cole got sent back.
Oh, not surprised at all. He's been. I don't want to say he's been disappointing. I don't think he did anything wrong. But it's simply a numbers game. There's nowhere for him to play. He can't go to the AHL. He wasn't horrible, but he hasn't stood out. And where Barzal has absolutely stood out. And I think that's why he hasn't been sent back yet. It's probably been a reward to him. But there's really nowhere for them to play.
Maybe we should slide this into a discussion, Russ, that you had talked about. You had sent this really good email. And it's funny because the same day you had sent this email to me about the sliding
Oh, the sliding.
The sliding thing of ELC of entry level contracts and how that works, which is really fascinating and something that I don't think people realize. I was trying because I was just wondering the other day before you sent this about, you see these guys are all signed to these $900,000 entry level contracts and then they're sent back, and they're not getting paid $900,000 of course to play, but they are getting signing bonuses. I guess. From what I understand, there is. Do you know about this, Kevin? I think a guy does get a signing bonus, right, on an entry level contract.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and that can be up to 10%, I think it is, or something like that. So.
I can't remember now. I don't have it.
Yeah, there's a really. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. They can get a 10% signing bonus on the entire.
$92,500 because the baseline entry level is $925,000.
But I think the signing bonus can be on the 3-year entry level, so I think it can actually be.
Right.
Like $270,000, or something like that.
Well, that's the total of the 3 years.
Right, but and I think that the signing bonus can be that. So that a guy like Konecki or something, Travis Konecki or Provorov can receive that kind of money before getting sent back to the minors.
Well, they're being sent back to juniors,
right? But you're being sent back to juniors and not receiving. It is interesting to me that how this works. Because and then you can slide it for 2 years, right, Russ?
Yeah. And actually, they said, like, based on if you're playing in Europe and you don't reach that game threshold, Killington, or Shillington, however you want to pronounce it, is going to be on a 5-year slide.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So.
Calgary, which is crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, there really is a lot. I mean, I don't know. You can't help but think, when you look at these players that are getting sent back and not getting sent back in the top 6 or so. Like, I think, with this guy on New Jersey, Russ, you're probably right if he doesn't get picked by New Jersey, but he got picked by New Jersey. Like, if you had known he was getting picked by New Jersey, would you put him in the top 20? I think it's, did you have to have that in before? You had to have your thing in before the draft, right?
I had it, no, not before the draft, but no, this was just probably like a month after the draft.
Oh, okay, so it's a month after the draft. Okay, so
who's going to play in the league this year, and so then you have to start projecting, and Zaka was on my list, but then I said, boy, there's so many other guys like Dylan Larkin, guys who weren't drafted this year that I can't go that heavy on the guys this year.
So it wasn't just this year. Gotcha. Okay, so
no, it's anybody who would play for the first time this year.
Right.
So so that's where it made it. So of course I had McDavid and I had Dylan Larkin and I had Jack Eichel. I didn't put Hannafin because I thought for sure he'd go to the AHL. And I still am not convinced he's not going to. But that's the other thing. So if a guy gets, like 9 games, then technically he gets to play in the NHL, right? So that makes that list even harder.
Right. It does.
Yeah. I'm just looking this up. It is 10% for over the course, so you were right. So.
Okay, good. There we go. Bring you back down a little bit, Kev. That's better. Just the very, very top of your head for a second there. Yeah, it's 10%. The other thing I did not realize, this might come as a shock to everybody else, but when I was looking this up, and I just want to throw this out there, that the NHL has bonuses that it pays out on its own to players based on statistics. Did you know this? Am I the only person not to know this? That like if you
know that.
Because I was checking on this, like for example, the top 10 to 15 goal scorers can get like $100,000 paid by the NHL, not like salary cap. And it doesn't count on the salary cap. Time on ice, the NHL pays out for.
That's weird.
For the defenseman, like the top. I'll find the exact thing, but it was crazy when I was looking this up. I did not realize the NHL actually has bonuses that it pays to the players that do not count on the salary cap, that are just NHL bonuses for achievements in statistics. I didn't know this existed, but it does, and I've got. I'll find the exact article I was looking at this morning, and it was for defense. It counts for points and time on ice, and for offense, it counts for goals and power play goals. There's actually a number. There's actually a separate money that's paid out for power play goals by the league, and league bonus, not a team bonus, not against the salary cap. It's not a ton of money, but it is something. They were talking about like $150,000 for the top scorer, I think. And then there's also a monetary award for actually winning the NHL awards.
All right, I did find this quote from Hines. So basically, and this was in Tom Galitti's article, it says if it's keeping someone just to keep him and give him the experience, that's a different situation. That's not developmentally good for the guys. Now, he did say before this that the 9-game window is important, It's really player specific in the sense that if they're really close, blah blah blah. But he actually gave a point to where he doesn't think there's a positive to it, and so that's where I say, Kevin, that's the first time I've ever heard that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to argue with an NHL coach. I mean, you would think he would know, but I just politely disagree. Like, how could it be a bad thing for a young player to get 9 games at the NHL level?
It's one thing if you're in the mix to be on the short list for Stanley Cup finalists this year and you don't want to upset the apple cart and you have plenty of depth. And it's another thing where you're in a rebuild and you're in an admitted rebuild. Why not just take a look and see what you have for a couple of games? Because you can always send them back. It doesn't even have to be 9 games. Send them back after 3 or 4.
I think the part of sending them back, sorry, Mike, is just that they feel like, well, if we send them back, as the season has already started in Sarnia, then it sets them back down there. But again, I disagree with that because Zach is so far ahead of most guys in juniors, he would just pick up right where he left off.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous if that's what they're saying. That's absurd. I just don't understand that. There doesn't seem to be any downside to that, and especially, Dan's right on. I mean, this is not a Stanley Cup contender. This is a team that's sort of building. So the more time he could get up, the better. It's almost like a free 9 games.
Right.
Well, Mike Babcock said a similar thing to what Hines said. I mean, he essentially said, I think a guy like Nylander can play in the league right now, but it's one thing if he can play. It's another thing if he can have actually have an impact. And he thinks he is selling the fact that I want this player to be developed. I want him to be able to play at both ends of the ice. Yeah, he can play on the power play. He may be able to score a couple goals, but we want this guy to be at the apex of his game when he finally comes up here. And I think that's what the Leafs are justifying, sending guys like Kapanen, sending guys like Connor Brown and Nylander down to the minors. In the game last night that I watched, Babcock in the post-game remarks said the best 2 players on the ice were Connor Brown and William Nylander. But in the other breath, he says this team is going to go only as far as the veterans carry them. So that doesn't mean I'm gonna have Nylander and Brown make this team because they're not completely ready to make the NHL yet.
So if Babcock goes into his Red Wings way, and I'm sure with the support of Lamoriello, we'll see Nylander when he's 26.
Yeah, I think that's 2 different arguments.
I agree.
I mean, I think, Mike, what Babcock is saying is completely different. I mean, these are entry-level, recently drafted, high draft picks we're talking about, who have a chance to get 9 free games and sort of get a taste. You kind of show fans. I think that's different than prospects who have already sort of been paying paying their dues and so forth, like Nylander. I think that's different. Now, in Marner's case, maybe the argument is they know this season is going to be so bad that they don't want him to,
right,
be caught up and all that. But, the Devils, the Devils are always competitive, even when they're poor.
They're Corey Schneider. They're going to be in hockey games.
So I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not buying this. So.
Here's the rest, and it gets negative. He says if a player's not going to make the team, which again, I mean, that's like, of course you're not going to know until the 9 games are over, I guess. But if a player's not going to make the team, similar to the guys that have already gone down, there is something to be said in the development process of not muddying the waters for them. They miss time with their team. Sometimes the longer they stay here, the more attached they get, and sometimes they don't get off to a good start. So if we feel like he's going to be here, then we'll keep him. But if he's not going to be here, it's important for him to get established with his junior team and get into the season. Boy, that's tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
sounds like
look,
all or nothing.
these guys are so much better than the players they're going back to play against in juniors. I mean, Joshua Hosang was late. He ran the stairs for 3 hours. He got sent to juniors and had like 4 points in his first game there.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. We're seeing a lot of that.
You can even tell the kid.
Is a developed kid mentally and physically. He is.
And you can tell the kid, look, we're going to give you 9 games just for the experience of it, but we're likely going to send you back.
Right.
So make no mistake about it, so the kid understands. But, there is a benefit. And you know what? This is still the entertainment business, and I bet fans in New Jersey would like to watch this kid for 9 games.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that's the argument we're getting. That's what I'm getting from Flyers fans like crazy. I'm getting bombarded, Russ. I mean, absolutely bombarded. Like after the game the other night against the Rangers, I got so many emails about the fact that are we really going to have to watch last year's team again when we have all of this talent, and I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to watch last year's team again, basically. And
Well, part of the problem is they have so many defensemen that they're just unmovable.
Right.
You can't let these kids
Oh,
play
yeah.
because you have to play. You can't have Andrew McDonald, Shen, and all these other bad contracts on their blue line all up in the press box.
Well, there's enough teams out there right now that could use a defenseman for a year that they might be able to pawn off a Luke Shen on a team like Boston.
Maybe,
it
yes.
seems like a way. So before we get into the Metro, we want to get into the Metro Division because we're not going to have time to do anything today.
Those kids, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's injury history with Gostisbehere and who's not physically ready. I think that's different too. I do.
Sure.
Oh, I do. I agree. It's a very frustrating thing. So I found this thing real fast I was talking about. So this is the NHL salary cap woes. So basically, this is Schedule B bonuses for entry-level contracts, right? So this and it comes down here that these are league performance bonuses. So a player in a club may agree to any compensation for a Schedule B listed below. They're automatically paid by the league and do not need to be written into an entry-level contract. They do not count against a team's salary cap. So there's these bonuses down here for points per game, for goals, assists, points, time on ice.
Those are nice little bonuses.
Yeah, these are things I never realized existed. I didn't know the NHL itself just paid these bonuses as part to these players.
I think you should implement something similar with us bloggers.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if I get more comments on the show than Mike, like, shouldn't I get something?
Yeah.
Moving on. Yeah. Moving on. Let's go to the Metro Division. So what we've been doing this week is we have been trying to gauge fan expectations. Thanks, Mike. I couldn't think of the word for a second there. Too much dayquil in my head.
I'll be waiting for my bonus.
So yes, the fan expectation. And how we've been doing that has been, going through, but based on a code system. And this is just, something I came up with. It's not really exciting. If you watched all week, I'm sorry for repeating, but basically this is how it goes. And I will read it to you quickly right now and give you an idea. So with fan expectations, it's a little different. And why I like to look at fan expectations is because in terms of hockey rumors that are going to be coming this year, fan expectations always play a part of this. A team with low fan expectations, doesn't need to make a lot of moves, or, a team with high expectations, if things go poorly, sometimes does. So the expectations, we have a code green where the fan base is very satisfied and happy with the progress of the team. Code yellow, a fan base is divided and could be susceptible to sliding into code green, or code red, which is code red is where expectations are high and the fan base is unwilling to accept anything less than an improvement on the previous season. And then code double red, which someone said I should call black, but I'll call it code double red, is fan base has been at code red for some time and already has negative feelings going into the season before it even begins. So these are the levels that we have, And then
I'm wearing the right color shirt.
You were in the right color shirt. Okay, so let's start with the Islanders, Dan, and let's start with the fan expectations on the Islanders since we have you today. Let's go there.
I think the expectations are you have to win a playoff series. This team has to make the playoffs again, and it has to win a playoff series. It's been 20-something years since they got into the second round, and I don't think anything else will be tolerated. I think everyone is on a short leash, from the head coach to everyone on that roster. They have to improve off of last year, and it's time. It's time for this team to grow up, and if they don't have a coaching staff that can get them to the next level, I would expect with new owners coming in, that will be they could clear house. I think Gart Snow is safe. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I could definitely see the coaching staff be axed if this team got off to a bad start.
So you're saying code red, basically.
Code red, if there's a darker color red than that, I would put it at that. This team has to win a playoff series this year. It's time.
Code maroon.
Yeah. Code crimson, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, those are good codes. I think red makes sense. I mean, is there any benefit to this team having, do they get any kind of a mulligan because they're in Brooklyn? Is there any sort of excitement added to that?
Oh, there's excitement, yeah. I think there's actually an energy and a buzz in the city, and they've been in more media outlets the past 3 weeks than they've probably been in the last 15 years combined. There's definitely a buzz in the city, and there's expectations now. The rebuild is over. This is a good hockey team. It's time to get to that next level, and that has to happen this year.
Yeah, I wonder though if there's not like a bit of an unknown here because they're in a different arena and different fans. I mean, I just read a story recently where they talked about different people have bought the tickets this time around as opposed to regular Islanders fans. So I I don't want to disagree with Dan because I think he knows the team best, but I think there is. I tend to agree with you on this. Like, I think there's just a little bit of an unknown here because there is sort of an excitement about the team moving and maybe sort of a mystery about exactly who their fan base will be going forward. I mean, I think it's going to be mostly, traditional Islanders fans, but so I think it's I think you can make a case for saying it's a little bit difficult, read. Like if they had a great regular season and played a unbelievably fun playoff series, man, maybe that'd be enough. I mean, I think it's.
They did that last year.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but it's a distinct. As I said, you might be right, but it's been my experience in covering the league. Whenever there's some newness, a change of ownership, a change of coaching, a change of general managers, a change of direction, there's always a bit of the unknown that you're never quite sure how people are going to react to it.
Yeah,
Well,
It's been 23 years. I think that's what the fan base keeps saying. It's been 23 years since you've gotten out of the first round.
Yeah, and that team made the first round of the playoffs, what was it, 3 years ago when they lost to Pittsburgh, and then had a sort of a setback season the next year, then made the playoffs last year and lost to Washington. I think if they have a setback, what Dan is talking about in terms of Jack Capuano's head being on the chopping block is probably the case. But, I mean, I see the talent level on this team. I mean, they kept Boychuk and Leddy. They have a solid veteran goalie in Halak. They have a deep group of forwards. I think the only question mark, and we've brought it up on many webcasts before, is the Opozo situation, which sounds to me like he's not going to sign an extension, and they're not willing to pay him the money that he's looking for. So they're going to have to probably, before the deadline, make the decision of either to keep him and let him walk away or try to find a suitor out there to maybe get a player who can help them now and in the long term.
Yeah, I don't think you can let him walk for nothing. But I don't think they're going to trade him for draft picks. I think the deal has to be there. I mean, I made this point in the Owls Buzz podcast yesterday. The Rangers traded their captain at the deadline and went to the Stanley Cup Finals because the trade made sense for them. So if that trade is there, I think you have to do it. I don't think you can pay Oposo $6 million plus a year. He can't stay healthy. He hasn't proven that. We still don't know what we have from him recovering from that very serious eye injury, and I don't think he's a first-line player. And so I think that's what the team is determined. If he'll take a hometown discount and play on the second line, I think he'll stay. But I don't think he will, and I think they're going to have to part ways from him.
It's very interesting. Opozo's history with the Islanders fan base is a fascinating one. It really is.
He's a good player.
He's a good player, and this goes back to the Olympics. I mean, and how pissed off everyone was that he didn't make the Olympic team, and now how they're willing to let him go. There's a lot. It's just a fascinating history to me.
I would rather give $6 million to Ryan Strome than Kyle Oposo.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like there should have to be that kind of. I mean, the only reason I agree with Dan on this, besides Dan's expert knowledge in all things the Islanders, is the fact that I do think Capuano has been there too long to not have a code red situation. Like when you have a coach and a GM who've been there as long as they've been there, this is if they were going into a new building with a new coach, I think they would be a little bit different. I think you could argue for code yellow, but the new building with the same coach, that's a bit of a code red to me. And
here I'm going to completely make up a false rumor right now. John Tortorella has been hired by the NHL Network. He's going to be in New Jersey, all cushy and comfy and being all nice and warm and fuzzy like a little teddy bear. The Islanders are going to start off 5-10, and those rumors are going to start.
Oh boy. Well, there you heard it here first, folks. Tortorella to the Islanders.
And that's just something that came up in my head. There's absolutely no merit to it.
Give it a D4, Dan, for you?
Yeah, D4. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right, so let's go to Kevin with Pittsburgh. This is a really tough one, Kevin. This is a really hard one.
I think it's code red, though. I mean, I think they're, the fan base has the Penguins on probation. I think they viewed what happened in the offseason and they're excited about it. But, there's a history here, and there's been a bit of an up and down. There's been some unevenness in the playoff performance level. It's really not been that long when you think about it that they won a Stanley Cup. I mean, it was only 2009. That's only 6 years. And yet there's a lot of unrest because first of all, you had the poor performance level of Fleury, for a few years, and then in the last couple of years, the team has just not performed well, and it feels as if that there was something wrong with the strategy of the team. Like, it just wasn't built to perform in the postseason. So for that reason, I think even though there's an excitement level over the fact that Kessel is on this team now, and they've added some different players. The top six will have a different look to it, to be sure. There's concern about the defense. I think Fleury has kind of won over the fans again, and I think they have a comfort level in that regard. But there's a feeling that Jim Rutherford probably is only here for a short period of time as well. Yeah. So it's almost like there's a provisional government.
That's funny.
And in Pittsburgh. So it's sort of a mixture. Like, I think the fans are kind of excited to see what this team can do. I think they're going to take Jim Rutherford at his word. He's pretty much said if the defense doesn't look good early, he's going to be aggressive. And knowing Rutherford's history, that's probably true. So I think there's an excitement level, but I also think because of the recent history, and it doesn't help that in terms of the fan comfort level that the Penguins have said that they may sell the team. So with all that in there, I think that adds up to Code Red.
I think so too. Anyone else? Anyone have a thought on that?
I think we just need to see that defense.
Right.
I think we just need to see that defense, because if everybody's healthy, if Letang is healthy, and Mata progresses like we think we will, I think, and Pouliot emerges a little bit, I think the defense is going to be good. But we need to see it, and if they get any injuries back there, boy, I think there's going to be some big-time trouble there. I will say, though, I think they've put together their deepest forward group in a long time, and I really like Nick Bonino as a third-line center. I think they've done a nice job with their forwards. I just need to see the defense.
I heard something alarming last night, though, on the game, the game in Johnstown. The alarming part was they said they are looking for, like, really high minutes from Mata. And my thought is, as mature as that kid is, based on the injuries,
right,
and, the cancer scare and everything else, I think he's got to ramp up to that. I don't think you could.
That's a lot to ask for a 20-year-old.
It's not a smart move. And so that showed me that there's a little desperation on that team as to how their defense is going to be. So that's really still, for me, the defense is double red. And that's just the way it is.
And I like guys like Ian Cole that they added at the end of last year, but to depend on the durability of Letang and Mata, I think is too much to ask for. And if Scuderi doesn't play an effective defensive role, and Pouliot doesn't step up from what he did last year in a limited role in with the Penguins, I think Rutherford is going to have to go and break the glass and operate on that disaster scenario. But the question is, where is he going to go? There aren't exactly defensemen growing on trees in the NHL. You're not going to find teams giving up their number one or number two defenseman to Pittsburgh unless you're talking about a rent-a-player like a Dustin Byfuglien. So, and they don't have a lot of cap room either. Right. So I'm not sure where they have the flexibility to go out and get that difference maker on the blue.
Well, like, I'll give you an example. Maybe he turns to a Carolina, and if Carolina knows that Cam Ward's going to be on the way out, Matt Murray's on the way up for Pittsburgh, and he's doing really well. How many years will you have him as a backup for Fleury? Maybe they put him on the market. Someone like Carolina says yes. Maybe they give him Ryan Murphy or someone even better than that, because they do have some young defensemen in Carolina that are almost ready or just about there. And so maybe he looks to do something like that.
Yeah, this is what I would say about Mata. I think it's fair to question Letang's durability. He's a smaller defenseman. He's had some injury things, but Mata. We're going to take a look at one season where he had the poor luck of getting cancer, and then also had another injury on top of that. Like, I don't think you can question his durability yet. I think Letang's fair, and also Mata played a lot of minutes last year before he went down. Like, he was a horse. I remember seeing him play like 23, 24, 25 minutes for, I think maybe even the last couple of games he played. So I think he does have that capability. He just is one of those guys that I think can be a horse. But I understand Russ's point. His point is he's young and you can't count on that. But to me, he has shown he can do that. And now we're going to have to see whether he's he has durability or not. But the question marks on the defense are certainly fair.
Well, the funny thing about this is not funny, but if you listen to Rob Rossi, who has definitely got some serious opinions about the Penguins, he'll tell you that the defense is fine, and that the offense is the problem, and he'll sit there and he'll say that they are catering to Sidney Crosby, and that this whole Phil Kessel thing to play with Crosby is the wrong move. That Phil Kessel should be playing with Malkin, and that he's not going to work with Crosby because they play the same game, and there's a whole bunch of interesting things, and I don't totally disagree with a lot of what he says. I'm as much as we're going to see Phil Kessel play with Crosby for sure, and I'm sure they're going to put up their points. But I do agree with his assumption. I've always agreed with his assumption that Crosby is not the same kind of superstar that we've seen before. He is the grinder. He is the best grinder probably ever to play in the game. He's not the kind of Malkin's more likely the kind of guy who's going to get Phil Kessel points. I don't know. I mean, there are so many, and I bring this up because Rob covers the team on a daily basis, and the fans, I think, feed off of that. So that's part of the code red, I think, is the fans feeding off of that.
Back, all respect to Rob Rossi, I think the concern for offense is ludicrous. I really do. It's like, I think that Kessel is going to score between 40 and 45 goals no matter who he plays with. If it's Malkin or Crosby, they've got Hornquist. They've got, I think they have enough wingers now. For the first time in a long time, they have enough top six wingers to play with Malkin and Crosby. So I think the concern about their offense is just misplaced.
Well, here's the other part. Other than now with Phil Kessel, how many times has Crosby, throughout the course of a season, had an elite player on his line? Usually he doesn't.
Oh, I know. Usually he doesn't. I totally agree.
Here's just throwing this question out there. Is Sidney Crosby the kind of superstar that makes players around him better?
Yeah.
Well, of course he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So now he finally has some talent that I'm not saying he actually has talent on his line that are in the same neighborhood as him. He finally has a guy like Phil Kessel who is, I won't say is as good as Sidney Crosby, but in the neighborhood and finally playing with elite talent. I think you can only get by with guys like Chris Kunitz and Dupuis for so long, even though they played well together. I think you need some elite talent to go with an elite player.
I don't disagree with all this, but I'm saying I do think that Penguins fans read Rob Rossi, and I do think that part of the code red of the Penguins fans is this. I think this also plays into it. That there's a desperation that's definitely building in the city, and he's leading the charge on that on some of the things because he does not. There's a definite, and I get so many people who just write to me, so that's the only reason I say this is the people who are.
We said this when they made the Kessel deal. The clock is ticking on the Penguins right now. You've got all these core players: Letang, Fleury, Malkin, Crosby, now Kessel, all in their late 20s. You've got maybe 3 to 4 years with them in their prime, with all of them locked up on deals, before they become not worth the contracts that they're making. So I think they got to strike while the iron is hot in this next 2 to 3 year window and do everything they can to win the Stanley Cup, because when all these guys turn 31, 32 years old, I think they're going to start going downhill, and then they're not worth the money they're being paid.
Yeah, we could spend a whole show on Pittsburgh, but there's plenty more to get into with this. But let's move on to the Rangers, Russ. Where's the expectation level for the Rangers?
I think they're really in orange because the fan base is split. There are fans that don't believe Henrik Lundqvist can win the big game, which is ludicrous. But there are a lot of fans that believe that.
Right.
He's right. Every time he gets eliminated in the playoffs, you start hearing it. Then there are fans that believe that Girardi and Stahl aren't a top pairing D guys, which I'm not in that camp, but there are people that in the fan base that believe that. The only thing I do know is that their window is definitely closing. I mean, they have older guys. Lundqvist is 33. Dan Boyle looks horrible so far in the preseason.
He really does. I want to give you
that. It's unfortunate, but he does.
And so that's now
But they have a lot of young guys too, Russ. I mean, they're not. They have old guys, but they've also got a real core of young guys too.
They do, but now it's new guys because, they basically Carl Hagelin, who was an important player because he scored even strength goals. He had never got a sniff on the power play, and he was an elite penalty killer. Has to be replaced, right? So now Jared Stoll is a replacement for him. Is he a full season replacement? I don't know, and he certainly doesn't have the speed. Edom has the speed, but it's taken him a little while to get used to the offense, and I think he'll work his way in. They have a lot of moving parts except for on defense and in net, and that'll get them a long way. It will. Those other things have to sort of come around this season. You know, Rick Nash could score 45 goals in the regular season again, but if Rick Nash doesn't do it in the playoffs, those whispers come up all over again because, you know, that's just a fair thing. That's just the way it is in New York, and so far he hasn't been able to do it. Fans are at the point where they have to make it to the Stanley Cup, and they almost have to win the Stanley Cup for them to be happy, but they definitely have to make it. They're tired of sort of going up and down the slope, even though it's been very successful for the last few years. They're sort of getting tired of it because they see that they're aging. Even though they have some young players, if you looked at like how they did at Traverse City with a young team, they got killed in most of their games. Their talent level in their system, prospect-wise, has gone down a lot.
Well, they haven't had a first-round pick in 2 years. They don't have one either.
Yeah.
Kevin,
That's where it hurts you.
Sorry. Echo. Okay. Let's see if we can get out of this hole.
Oh, no.
Mike's needs to go.
I'm going to.
On. All right, we're pretty good. Kevin, it's just you and me.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, the Rangers suffer from the fan issue that affects absolutely all the teams in the NHL who are pretty good, and that is that only one team can actually, you know, win the Stanley Cup. Like what they've accomplished, you know, it's really impressive. And you know, when it comes to Henrik Lundqvist, I always remind Ranger fans what was true about Eddie Belfour was he was blamed for the failures of his teams forever until he won the Stanley Cup, and then all of a sudden he was a Hall of Famer. And that's what I see with you know, with Lundqvist. You know, in my mind, he's in the top 2 goalies in the league, and you know, he's highly successful. And you know, is it just bad luck, or you know, or his inability to win that causes the problems in the end? Well, I think it's just bad luck, or that the other team was really, you know, a good player. But you know, I think orange is a good color for them that Russ brought up because you know
everybody's not one of the options. But
but you know what? That's never stopped us before.
I know.
That's right.
So orange is between yellow and red, so we're gonna.
Well, you know, most of us who drive in the world today are very familiar with the color orange. You know?
Yes, no,
so
and speaking of orange, I'm going to talk about the Flyers' expectations.
The defensemen should be wearing because they represent pylons.
Right. So the Flyers, let's go to them because we're running out of time. I want to get to as many teams as we can today. We will get to the teams from the other divisions as well before we will have a catch-all day of the teams that we haven't gotten to because we're going to do the best we can here to get all the expectations together. But the Flyers, I'm just going to throw this out there real quick. The Flyers ownership believes they are at a code yellow, but the Flyers fans are at a code red. And that's where I'm feeling this disconnect. The Flyers fans are definitely at a code red. They want us. This team has to make the playoffs for them to be okay. They have to improve.
I think they're 2 years away from being really.
I don't think they're a playoff team, but I think
2 years away from being really.
I don't think they are, but I'm just saying where the fans' expectations are.
Well, they have to learn with disappointment. They're operating under the mentality of what Paul Holmgren and Ed Snyder was before Ron Hextall came to town, because Ron Hextall is interested in building this team and you know, building them through prospects and drafting well, and he's been doing that the last couple years. And he's trying to follow the model that you know, he was involved in with it in LA. And I think the fan base is still hooked on that mentality of win it now, get in the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen, and that's not realistic. And
it's not just Holmgren. It's 40 years of it. You know, it's 40 years of the same thing. I mean, this goes back to every GM.
I was just citing the most recent example.
Yeah, but this is why it's going to be a very, very painful year here in Philly for a lot of people, I think. And
I mean, they have a lot of talent, Ak. I mean, I really
talent, and that's the issue. When you have Claude Giroux, when you have Jacob Voracek, when you have Steve Mason, I mean, and Mason, I do think is going to take a run at being the backup for Price next year for Team Canada. I really do. I do think he's looked incredible. I mean, he looked amazing against the Rangers the other night.
He's having a really good preseason.
He could have scored like 6 goals in that game.
Oh yeah, he's. So when you have a guy like that, you would sit there and say, okay, you've got Steve Mason and you've got 2 of the best forwards in the game on your team, and yet we're all saying there's no way they're making the playoffs. You know, so that's a real. There's see the disconnect. That's where it's all coming about. I mean, it's hard to make the playoffs in the NHL, granted, But
if you could place the forwards and the goaltending of the Flyers this year with their defense 3 years from now matured with Gostisbehere and Sanheim and all the young guys, I think you'd have a team that would definitely make the playoffs. But you've got this hodgepodge defense of McDonald and Streit and Luke Shen, and it's
not just that; it's the offense beyond those guys too. I mean, there's
bottom six.
They don't get much. They don't get much out of their bottom six.
Right. I mean, even their, even beyond those two guys. I mean, they do get Simmons is a good scorer. He's going to score goals, but after Simmons,
well, Raffle had 20. I don't know if you can count on him again for 20, but he did.
Yeah. Didn't he get 20 by playing with those guys? That's going to happen. But beyond that, the second line. So I think that this is going to be a real. So will that mean that Hextall is making trades? I don't think so. But at the same time, there is a code red that there's going to be a rub there. We're going to see. That's going to be a really fun thing to watch for everybody involved. Kevin, how about the Blue Jackets? They're a good one.
Yeah, no, they're definitely green. I think they're green. I mean, there's a lot of optimism about this team. They've overspent on their forward group, as everyone knows who has looked at their salary cap situation, and they've underspent on defense. And I'm not excited about their defense, even though I like Jack Johnson. I think they'll be in a position at some point this season to go out and have to get a veteran defenseman to be sort of a stabilizing presence there. But they've got a top 5 goalie in Bobrovsky. If he plays at his best, they're going to score a lot of goals. I'm projecting they'll be in the top 5 goal scoring teams, and we've talked about this before. They're a very gritty, physical team.
Yeah.
They're going to make some noise. And when I did the NHL media tour and talking to this was the stars in the game. Almost all of them had nothing but praise and had high expectations for this Columbus group. The guys who play the game think the Blue Jackets have it going on.
Well, I talked to somebody this morning who seems to think, and I agree with them, that the line that may be the best line in the NHL this year, if they keep them together, is Brandon Saad with Ryan Johansson and Nick Foligno. That they put them together in the preseason. They've been hitting on all cylinders. Now that's not proof that they're going to do that in the regular season, but you've got a lot of firepower there. And to Kevin's point, the defense of the Columbus Blue Jackets is Sergei Bobrovsky, because if he doesn't stand on his head with the state of their defense, they signed David Savard to a long-term extension. He's had one good year. I like Jack Johnson as an offensive defenseman, but as Russ has said before, Ryan Murray is the key. Is probably the key to that defense. If he can stay healthy and fulfill the promise of him being a number 2 overall pick, then I think they're on the path to making the playoffs and being a tough out in the playoffs.
Yeah, they are very high on Ryan Murray, and they really are depending heavily on him too. And when you talk to them, they are acting like he is going to be fine. They are very convinced he is going to be 100% fine this year, for what it's worth. So
he has to be. We don't even know what he is yet. We haven't really seen him.
We know he's a good skater, and we know he doesn't make mistakes, and he's got a high IQ. Beyond that, it's all still developing. It is.
He really feels like Scott Niedermayer to me when he's playing at his best, but we've seen so little of that. It's hard to tell.
I don't think he has the offensive upside of a Scott Niedermayer. He may have the skating ability, but that's the thing. As long as he can take advantage of that hockey IQ by being out on the ice for 20 minutes, then they can take it. Then he's beneficial to them. If he's out for 40 games, then Jarmo Kekalainen has got to patchwork that defense.
Yeah. I think green's good, Kevin. It's a good call. Let's go. Speaking of green, what used to be green, at least, the Hartford Whalers, who've moved to Carolina. So we'll let Dan take the Carolina fan expectations, being the old whale tail you are. So
I think they're green too. I think they're in. This is a team in transition. I think you're going to see some familiar faces gone at the end of this season. I think the Eric Stahl and the Hurricanes are going to part ways, and I don't think Cam Ward's along for this team either. I really think this is a team in transition. They got some really nice young players, and I think they need to collect a few more, and I think you have a rebuild going on here.
I think Eric Stahl sticks around, but that's my opinion.
$9 million. They just said it. He's looking for $9 million.
I would trade him and get some more assets. They need some more young players.
But I heard that report was erroneous, and honestly, if you look at that roster, it's not conducive to a team that's a rebuild. You've got Jordan Stahl, Skinner, Eric Stahl. Lindholm's a good young player. What's that?
Chris Versteeg.
Chris Versteeg. It's not, the lineup is not really bad enough to be.
I think you're going to see a big time turnover after this season, though.
Well, yeah, if they can't get Stahl to agree to a deal or the framework of a deal in the first couple months of the season, then they're going to be shopping them, and that's probably no doubt because you can't let an asset like that just stay there when they're not going to make the playoffs. They get to turn him into assets they can hold on to for a couple 3 years or more. So they're going to have to do that, and then they could be a team that's on a downward track.
I give Frank credit for two things, though. He did just cut Zach Boychuk, who was a former first-rounder, and just said, hey, look, it's not going to happen for him. We've got to move on. And there's a thought that maybe Hayden Fleury is going to go with Noah Hannafin to start the year at least. And so that would make fans pretty excited to see if that could even work because they're both really young but really big mobile defensemen with a lot of toughness. If for some reason that worked, this could be a game changer for Carolina down the road.
Well, let's not forget they already have Falk too, so that's kind of an exceptional young defensive core. My take on Stahl is this: he actually likes it there, and they would like to keep him, but they are dealing with a tight budget, and even $7 million, I don't think they'd be able to pay him. So unless he's willing to go down and take $6 million a year. And that's just a guess number that I have, but yeah. I'm really confident that they won't be able to pay him what he's worth in terms of the marketplace. So you'd have to give them a really deep discount, and if he's willing to do that, he could stay there because he's a good player and they'd like to keep him. But I don't see it happen, and I think they'll keep him till the trade deadline and then get what they can for him.
Yeah, I can see that very well, very very easily. All right, how about New Jersey, Russ? We'll finish it up with Jersey.
They're very complacent green because, there are no expectations from that fan base in New Jersey. There's been so much turnover. Lou is gone. Ray Shero moved in. New coach John Hines. Maybe Zaka makes the team. Maybe he doesn't. There's still a collection of veterans that fans know won't be there in a couple of years. They have young defensemen still emerging like John Merrill and guys like that.
Yeah.
So they're still in that. And look, and signing Adam Larson I thought was smart because he has progressed. And so that's the future. Is they're working on those guys. They don't have a lot of offensive players in the future. They have a few, and those are lower guys that aren't ready yet. Even if Zaka's ready, they still have a couple, but not a lot. We don't know what Reed Boucher is. I mean, he put up a tremendous amount of points in juniors, but so far in a couple of years in the NHL hasn't done very well on and off. So they're going to be a bottom-dwelling team, but I don't think the fans are mad about it because I do think they see that, hey, they are building and we've got some pieces here and we have a goalie, so now we have to be patient. They've won cups, so I don't think that they're going to kill the management.
Really interesting test, Russ, I think, because you're right. I mean, they are a team. Usually, we think when teams win Stanley Cups, like Carolina, even that there's a hangover for that lasts for a while, and that that fan base is satiated by these cups.
Right.
The Devils fan base, though, has always been a different group.
Right.
They're a different lot. I think Lou had his finger on the fan base as well, as good as anyone, and I think the reason that Lou made the kind of moves he did is he was terrified of apathy in New Jersey. And I see this year as apathy in New Jersey.
I agree.
And I think Lou went out and signed older players because he wanted to create anything. He was afraid of what would happen would this fan base be able to survive an apathetic season.
Well, that may be what's behind Ray Shero. He's publicly not said anything. Hasn't mentioned the word rebuild at all. He hesitates to mention.
You can't.
it.
I mean, you can't mention it there. Really, you can't. They have to win to be. I mean, they have really done a good job of building a fan base. They have a legitimate fan base, and this isn't like the Devils of 20 years ago or whatever. They have a legitimate fan base. Comes from winning Stanley Cups. They have their own group of people who are very into them and aren't Rangers fans. These aren't old Flyers fans. These are Devils fans. They're born, raised Devils fans.
Just to show you the level of apathy, which is high, it's at a 10. Without Lou there, they don't even have a team captain name. That would be impossible with Lou Lamoriello in charge.
Yeah, there is a sense that, I mean, this team, it's kind of fascinating because remember this team came from the Colorado Rockies, right? And I know it was a long time ago, but the interesting thing about the Colorado Rockies, when I talk to people about why the Colorado Rockies moved, was because of apathy. There was an apathetic fan base, and they always said that the only way it would work there is if a team came there and won, and that's what happened, right? The Avalanche went there and they won immediately, so it was impossible to tell whether or not it would work or would not work in Colorado if the Avalanche weren't very good.
But they do have a winning GM. They have an owner with money. The owner has a lot of money, and they do have a coach that does preach hard play, which is what the fan base will like.
And
so
they have a goalie.
They just don't know what to expect. I don't think they know what to expect.
The only thing keeping them going is their goalie, right? So they have a goalie, and they've always because in New Jersey, the one thing they've always had is a goalie. I mean that's they've never been in a situation like most teams have been, having to deal with the goalies. So I want to see how the Devils fans survive this year. I think that's going to be another story. Devils and Flyers fans in this division. If you're going to look at two fan bases that could explode either way, those are two that I think.
I think they're going to be okay being a lottery team. I do.
Yeah.
I wonder though. I really wonder how long. I mean, because like you say, there's not a lot of other players that they're.
Well, by next year, Zaka will play. If he's not playing this year, he'll play next year.
I mean, there's a changing of the guard going on there, Ak. I mean, Eliash is 1 year. He's got 1 year left in his deal. He's
this is all true. This is all true.
Right.
I agree.
So they're going to have a lot of money under the cap. There's the potential of big names being in free agency, and if Shiro wants to go that direction, or if he wants to take advantage of teams that are going to be tight against the cap, where he can bring in a big name player. So I mean, they are going to have some upward mobility next summer. And I think they could be a team very busy, like around the draft, like teams like Columbus was this year.
Yeah, I mean, they have a kid, Josh Jacobs, a first-rounder from a couple of years ago, is a heck of a defenseman, but he's really young. So that's just one of the things. Now, Stephane Matteau, this is a big year for him because he had sort of they rushed him, and maybe that's where they're getting at with the 9-game thing. It didn't work for him, right? So then they sent him down. He was okay. Now they're trying him back up. That's a big guy. If he could make a step forward, then this makes a lot more palatable.
Yeah, they're going to be a fun one to watch, though, and I think they have to keep Zatka there for the apathy part of it. I think they're going to need excitement. I think which gets back to sort of the beginning of the show, how we started the whole thing. But yeah, so that's all the time we have today, guys. I appreciate everybody for hanging out, and Dan, thanks so much for being with us today.
Are you going to leave us with the goal song, with the goal horn?
Of course, I have to.
Yes.
Just to to give the people what they want. I can't.
There you go.
Here we go. Yes, coming up here. So here we go. Ready? And any minute now. So yes, I gotta love the slow. Here we go.
It's the Four Pintos.
You can make that work with a better goal song. Believe me, I've edited worse crap together and put it into good TV. With the right music.
Dan, what they should do is bring back the brass bonanza.
If you play it next to some of the others, like there's no bass in there.
Oh yeah. Compared to the others,
I agree.
We will have a goal song off goal horn off at some point. But yeah, I agree with you completely. No, I mean it's okay. I just can't help but think, of me honking the horn in my garage, telling my mom my
AMC pacer.
My pacer won't start. That's what it feels like to me. My pacer won't start. I need to jump start again. Get out here and jump in. There you have it, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy the games tonight.